Hi everyone, welcome back to another workshop in the ICP Bitcoin DeFi Bootcamp. Today we have another demo to end the week. So we have the Liquidium team here to come and show us what they've built. So I'm going to invite our speaker, Bogdan, up onto stage to come and start today's lesson. I hope everyone is really enjoying the bootcamp so far and you're ready to go into our final week of workshops next week. If there's any questions for our speaker today, we're going to keep them all for the end of the session. So please put them in chat and make sure you leave enough context that when we get to them at the end of the session, we'll be able to pinpoint what part of the lesson and the lecture you want to go back to and ask a question about. Bogdan, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. We can jump right in. There's no admin we need to do today. So if you want to share your screen, we can get started.
Yes.
Looks good. We can see your slides.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Bogdan and I'm a blockchain developer and I'm here to talk a bit about Bitcoin and Chain Fusion. Just to give a little bit of an introduction on myself and Liquidium team. So I've been in the crypto space since 2016, working on developing blockchain solution. And I've joined Liquidium for almost over 1 year now. Uh, Liquidium started as a non-custodial Bitcoin native lending platform back in 2023. And now we are trying to move beyond Bitcoin by creating lending products that can work on any chain. But today I'm here to talk about our peer-to-peer lending solution, which we initially built just by relying on the scripting language that Bitcoin provided, and on top of which we later added ICP technology, such as Chain Fusion, to make the user experience way better. So for Bitcoin enthusiasts, this is a really exciting time because it feels like the space is finally evolving into something sophisticated that you can use to actual decentralized finance on. Okay, so before we dive into the technicalities of Liquidium, I just want to give a quick recap on Ordinals and Runes. These are the Bitcoin native assets that we use on Liquidium, so people can basically use Runes and Ordinals to take out loans and access BTC liquidity. And I'm also going to try to give a brief explanation on broad concepts that you as a developer can use to integrate ordinals or runes into your DeFi application and leverage BTC. So as you may know, the programmability of Bitcoin is quite limited. While it does have a scripting language, it's very minimal. And although it's security focused, it's really hard to build complex applications over it. So while on chains such as Ethereum, Solana, or ICP, you have these really powerful programming languages such as Rust or Solidity or Motoko, on BTC, this is not the case. And you are pretty much constrained to just a set of functions that you can use, and you cannot really do too much with it. So in 2023, even though Bitcoin has limited programmability, in 2023 we did have a real breakthrough when Ordinals first came out. Ordinals are very similar to NFTs, where one of the main differences would be that if you think of NFTs, you generally think of some on-chain identifier that is linked to some off-chain metadata. This means that the actual asset, for example, if you have an NFT of an image or a video or a song, the actual data of the asset that NFT holds is stored off-chain. So with ordinals, the main difference is that the data is directly embedded into the BTC chain, meaning that if you were to parse the BTC chain for ordinals, you would also be able to find the data of those ordinals and access it. Yeah, so ordinals were made possible by using the rudimentary language of Bitcoin scripts to embed this data directly into Bitcoin transactions, linking them to a specific Satoshi, where a Satoshi is basically the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. And by doing this, that Satoshi becomes unique and is essentially an NFT. So yeah, first in 2023, we had non-fungible tokens. And later that year, after seeing that non-fungibles are possible, the community started to rally and started exploring the idea of a fungible token system. And yeah, people came up with the idea of inscribing JSON data on chain, on the BTC chain, and that JSON data would hold operations that reflect fungible tokens, and hence the BRC20 standard was born. While it was quite clever and groundbreaking, BRC20 was pretty inefficient because it does require a lot of off-chain resources. It does require people to run indexers, and it produces a lot of blockchain bloat. So it's not really ideal. Hence, in 2024, coming from the same guy that initially designed Ordinal, Casey Roadmore, we have Runes coming out, which is, again, a fungible token standard, but Runes were specifically tailored around Bitcoin's UTXO system, which made Runes quite efficient and easy to integrate into DeFi applications. And yeah, this brings us to the present day, where we see a growing Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem. So you have applications such as Liquidium and many others that are trying to build trading solutions, lending solutions, and much more over Bitcoin. Okay, I'm gonna get a bit more technical on how runes and ordinals are stored on chain, just to try and give an understanding on how we're actually using these within the Liquidium ecosystem, and also maybe give you an idea on how you could use them when building your own DeFi applications. So these BDC assets are always associated with a UTXO. UTXO stands for unspent transaction output. So in this particular example, we have an UTXO identified by the transaction ID of a BTC transaction, an output on that transaction, and yeah, this is the UTXO identifier. And this UTXO holds 10 Satoshis and 10 runes, where each Satoshi is unique, and it's possible to inscribe an ordinal or NFT on each of these given Satoshis. So when it comes to a lending application such as Liquidiums, uh, the UTXOs themselves actually represent the collateral that the users would put up to take out loans and access liquidity. Okay, next, I'll try to give a brief overview on how the Liquidium platform actually works. After the presentation, we will also do a live demo so that you get a better feeling on how everything falls into place. So if you go to the Liquidium website, there's basically um, two roles that you can take. You can either be a lender or a borrower. If you're a lender, you have the option to deposit BTC into a non-custodial vault and then create lending offers based on the amount that you're willing to put out for loans. And depending on the offers that you're creating, you're going to be earning yield if those offers are matched by borrowers in need of loans. And then on the other side, you can be a borrower. So if you have Bitcoin native assets such as Ordinals or runes, you go to the Liquidium website, you can browse the available set of offers. And if you find an offer that you consider suitable, you just click the offer and then sign off on your asset slash collateral to get instant access to Bitcoin liquidity. So we have this two-step model, which is really nice because people are able to access liquidity instantly. But this was not always the case. So when we initially started at Liquidium, we had a three-step model, which we then later improved to a two-step model by adding ICP. So next I'm gonna try and explain how our workflows look like before adding ICP, and then show you how ICP helped us improve our user experience. So yeah, this is the user flow before integrating ICP. So getting back to the roles that I described earlier, as a lender, you would create an offer based on the amount of BTC that you were willing to put up as liquidity. And then those offers needed to be matched by borrowers that wanted to take out loans. Here in step two, when the borrower would come in and select your offer, they would sign a partial transaction that basically transferred your collateral wallet, your collateral from your wallet in exchange for the loan amount. Yeah, and after getting the borrower signature, there was an extra signature required coming in from the lender to activate the whole transaction. So these three steps did establish workflow which was fully peer-to-peer and non-custodial. However, this does have a lot of friction involved because the users need to wait for one another, and we also had to face some technical related issues with the BTC chain, where, like, for example, if the third signature didn't happen in time, the borrower may have just sent their collateral to somewhere else, and by doing so, they would invalidate the whole flow. And now enter ICP. So for us, integrating ICP was a real game changer because it allowed us to deliver a far more frictionless user experience, which in turn drove higher volume on Liquidium, boosting our numbers up. So at the time, we were searching for a solution that could improve how people interact with Bitcoin DeFi without compromising Bitcoin security. So for us, bridging to other chains or using side chains or using wrap tokens or layer twos, that was not an option. So we wanted to enhance the user experience without forcing the users, which are Bitcoin users, out of their comfort zone and without having them move away from Bitcoin on some different side chain or L2 or whatever. So it turned out that the technology that we were looking for was already well established on the internet computer through Chain Fusion. And with Chain Fusion, we were able to bring, I would say, smart contracts on BDC uh, with as little compromise as possible. And this is the user flow after integrating ICP. So in contrast to the previous flow, you can see that we only have 2 steps here. So in this case, loans happen instantly and users don't need to wait for one another anymore. So first, the lender would create an offer. This is the starting point where they define the terms based on the BDC that they have available. They would post that offer inside an ICP canister, and then the borrower would just tap in. They would review the details of the offer. They would sign their collateral off, and then the IC canister would validate that the collateral is correct and the conditions of the transactions are met. And it's the IC canister that signs on behalf of the user, basically at the same time that they're accessing the offer through the Liquidium UI. So yeah, this turned our this made our experience more seamless, secure, and instantaneous, which was amazing for us. Okay, getting a bit more technical on the requirements that the IC needed to fulfill so that our user flows remain consistent. So we needed the ICP canisters to be able to interact with BDC related data, and we had to be able to ingest Bitcoin related transaction data. We had to be able to validate those transactions, and we needed to be able to sign and broadcast those transactions. So here we see the actual steps that the canister goes through once a borrower comes in and signs off on a loan offer. So first, the canister would ingest the BDC transaction and it would decode it. Then it would parse that transaction step by step, making sure that the collateral lands where we expect it to land and that the borrower receives the loan amount that they're expecting. In this step, it's also interesting and worth noting that we do need to check against some third-party data providers, such as price feeds, for example, because when you're taking out loans, you need to know what the value of that collateral is. And this is really easy to do with ICP via its HTTPS outcall feature, where we can just query any third-party API and get information on the pricing of a given collateral, allowing us to validate the loan transaction. So after validation, then the canister needs to sign on behalf of the lender for the activation of the loan transaction, which is also really easy to do with ICP via the threshold signature functionality. It's basically just one line of code. And then we need to be able to broadcast the transaction, which is also made easy within the context of the IC, because we have a BDC canister living on the ICP network, which you can use to broadcast transactions directly on the BDC chain. So these are the key steps that the canister goes through when a loan gets activated, and the IC does fulfill all of these requirements very well. Okay, after the transaction is broadcasted, we're basically leaving the IC environment, and the finality is solely guaranteed by the Bitcoin blockchain. And this is how our loan transaction structure looks like, as we outlined it in this slide here. So it is an atomic loan transaction because we are expecting that the borrower would only be receiving their loan amount if the given collateral lands in an escrow, and these operations happen at the same time. So we need a guarantee that the borrower doesn't run off with the collateral while receiving the loan amount, and also that the collateral does land in a secure wallet, so to say, and that the borrower is able to claim it back once they repay the loan, and also that the lender can claim it if the loan term defaults. Yeah, so once the loan transaction confirms, the collateral lands into an escrow lock. Again, here we left the ICP space. We're entirely on BDC, and BDC guarantees our finality. So the borrower collateral lands in this escrow lock defined by the structure that we uh, highlighted on the slide. The lock is basically a taproot script, which lets us commit two possible outcomes for collateral unlocking. One of the outcomes is when the borrower repays the loan and they need to be able to claim the collateral back. And the second outcome is when the loan defaults and the lender needs to come in and claim the defaulted collateral so that they can do it as they wish. Um, So this is important because once the collateral is locked, this is fully enforced by Bitcoin. So neither the ICP canister nor Liquidium can override the outcome. We do have a Liquidium oracle that ensures fairness for both outcomes, so for both repayment and the default scenario. So just to give a bit of an overview, if I'm a borrower and if I'm trying to repay, the Oracle just makes sure that I'm sending the correct repayment amount to the lender, and only if I'm sending the correct repayment amount to the lender is the Oracle going to agree and unlock my collateral. It's also worth noting that the escrow lock itself is always a 2 out of 2 multi-sign between the borrower and the oracle, and also the lender and the oracle, which means that the oracle by itself would never be able to unlock unlock the collateral, which makes the whole system trustless and non-custodial. So in short, we have the IC canister that handles the initial coordination between the borrower and lender. And once the loan transaction goes live, uh, the finality is guaranteed by Bitcoin. Okay, I mentioned before that as a lender, to be able to partake in the instant loans flow, you need to deposit some BTC into the Liquidium platform. And of course, we needed to keep this non-custodial as well. So the solution that we came up with was implementing this multi-sign vault, which is 1 out of 2 between the lenders and the canister. And what this means is that um, we are able to automate loan activation because the canister itself can be in control of these funds, but it will only sign off for funds to leave this multi-sign if the conditions of a given offer are met. And on the other hand, it's also nice because given that it's a 1 out of 2 multi-sign, we are not necessarily dependent on the IC ecosystem or on Liquidium for that matter, because this is basically just an extension on the lender's public key, and they're also free to move funds out of this 1 out of 2 multi-sign as they wish. So this design gives us both flexibility and safety. It doesn't lock out the lender while also giving the canister the power to automate and handle loan activations. Yeah, next I'm just gonna showcase a quick code walkthrough. And what I want to say is that building BTC DeFi with IC is pretty convenient because you can already use battle-tested packages that have been out there and have been used within the Bitcoin ecosystem for quite some time. So you can rely on any Rust package that compiles to a WASM binary, and it can basically just drop that in your canister and do Bitcoin operations. So for example, here, this is the actual function that creates our vault for a specific lender. So this function takes in 2 public keys, one of which is the canisters, the other one is the lenders. And then here we just define the structure of the lock, defining the number of signatures, the participants, the maximum number of public keys, and the operations that the BTC chain needs to execute for spending funds out of this vault. Okay, and now I'm going to try and do a short demonstration on the actual Liquidium website. So Liquidium peer-to-peer lending is live at app.liquidium.wtf. You go in and connect with your BTC wallet, and then you can start lending and borrowing on this platform. So there's 2 modes on the Liquidium website. There's the instant loans mode that I showcased earlier. There's also the legacy manual 3-step loans mode, but we don't see much volume in this mode anyway. And yeah, we have a borrow section and a lend section. And for example, I'm going to try and show you how I can create lend offers maybe for a specific ordinal. So I click lend in the interface, and this modal pops up where I can choose the terms of the loan. And based on the amount that I have in my wallet, I can create loan offers that borrowers can come in later and execute. So yes, I can define the number of days for which I want to allow this loan to be, the BDC amount that I'm willing to loan out, the maximum LTV for the loan, and once I'm happy with my terms, I just click create offer, and my offer should pop up in the borrow section of the application. And now I'm going to try to actually grab a loan from Liquidium. So I want to runes loan for the Liquidium token. I'm going to be using my Liquidium tokens as collateral to get some BTC. So let's say I want a 5-day loan for, let's make it 550 Liquidium tokens. And then the app is telling me, okay, you're putting up a collateral of $79. I'm going to receive a $70 loan. And at the end of the loan term, I'm going to be paying back 71, which is the principal plus the interest for the 5 days. I'm going to submit. And my Express wallet is going to be popping up, and I need to confirm the transaction. Oops. And now, after I sign off, the transaction is sent to the Liquidium ICP canister. And now the canister is doing the requirement step that I was talking about earlier, where it validates the transaction. And if everything is fine, it cosigns the transaction and it broadcasts the transaction on chain. So this transaction is now on chain, and we can see it at mempool.space. Okay, this is it for the Liquidium demo. Thanks, everyone, and let me know if you have any questions.
Sorry, I was muted there. Are you able to see the chat? Otherwise, I can read out some of the questions that we had. Loosely, they don't link too much to the slides, so if you want to stop sharing your screen, you can, but you also might want to re-show a diagram or two, so it's fine if you don't.
Okay.
Aaron asked about 20 minutes in, a question broadly about your sort of go-to-market and initially when you were getting customers to start using Liquidium. He asked, how did Liquidium initially get enough users who wanted to act as lenders when you first launched as a project?
Yeah, so I'm more on the dev side. I'm not really sure I'm that suited to answer this, but I'm going to try to answer as well as I can. So as a go-to-market, Liquidium did try to capture as many users as possible as Ordinals came out. And yeah, basically our founders were active in the Ordinals community, and they did see interest coming from a lot of people that were willing to both use Ordinals as collateral, but as well as willing to put up BDC as lending liquidity against these Ordinals because they did see value in that market. So the user base kind of came naturally in the beginning, and afterwards various marketing strategies were implemented, where our marketing team started reaching out to other platforms, other developers, and the snowball basically grew.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, Aaron also asked, what happens if there is an imbalance between the amount of BTC that people are willing to lend and want to borrow? Is this an ongoing problem for, I guess, for a developed project, or is it something that only early stage projects would have to worry about?
It's actually the lack of borrowers that's missing right now. So there's a lot of people that are willing to lend against ordinals from what we're seeing now. So yeah, I wouldn't say the lack of liquidity is a problem, but rather demand can be scarce from time to time. But we are seeing quite a consistent and decent volume over the past months, and it also feels like it's growing and that the market is heating up.
That's good to hear. Moritz asked, and this I think is Moritz, our teacher from lesson 2. So hi, Moritz, welcome back. Moritz asked, why is the time lock and lender signature not enough to unlock the funds from the lender from the escrow lock?
In theory, it should be enough, but we did want to add a extra layer of security there just to have a bit more control over that outcome. And adding the Oracle signature there doesn't really compromise on the non-custodial aspect of things. So, and we try to play it on the safe side there.
Hopefully that's a good answer to your question, Moritz, and that's some thumbs up. So that's an approval there. Aaron initially asked, what is a 1 out of 2 multisig, but then Moritz answered in chat. So hopefully, Aaron, that question's been answered. Actually, for the recording, for those who don't know, what is a 1 out of 2 multisig?
Well, 1 out of 2 multisig is basically a crypto wallet, Bitcoin wallet, for example, where 2 parties are in control of the same asset, and both parties can extract crypto from that wallet without needing the approval of the other party. So like if I'm in a 1 out of 2 multisig with somebody, I can take out BTC out of that wallet without them needing to sign everything, and they can do this as well. And yeah, this plays really nice with ICP because in our case, the 2 parties are the lender and the ICP canister. And the ICP canister is basically a smart contract that only signs on given programmatic conditions. And we can ensure that the ICP canister only signs if a loan transaction is involved, so it won't move funds out of the 1 out of 2 unless a loan is happening, while the lender is in full control of the funds that are in the 1 out of 2 multisig.
Thank you. The next question I can actually answer. Are there any starter repos? Moritz has shared some in chat for you, Aaron, but for the recording, some starter repos and kind of all resources you might want to take a look at are all on the Bootcamp page on the Incoca platform. So if you do want to have a look at those, then that is the best place to check. A couple more questions. Aaron, and I should stress there are 2 Aarons in the chat. It's not just one very, very eager Aaron. There are 2 who are asking different questions. So a popular name in our crowd today. Aaron has asked, why are the loan terms 5, 7, and 10 days? What if you wanted a long-term loan? Is that too risky?
So the loan terms are defined by Liquidium. I would say, so there's 2 possible options. You can either use instant loans, and Liquidium defines the loan terms based on community sentiment, and there's also a voting process on what loan terms are made available. But there's also a feature on the website where you can basically create a custom loan, and if somebody agrees to fill in that custom loan, you can have any terms that you want.
Cool. And final question. The other Aaron has asked, what are the differences between user flow for, well, Aaron's typing his last question, for Bitcoin, Solana, and other super fast chains?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
What are the differences between user flow for Bitcoin, Solana, and other super fast chains?
So the current peer-to-peer application only works on BTC. I did mention in the beginning that we are working on lending products for other chains, but that's a totally different product than Liquidium.WTF. So that's our cross-chain loans product, which is not yet live. It's probably going to go live in the next 1 or 2 months. And to answer the question on the difference in flow, is that product is going to be more similar to what you see on products such as Aave, for example, where the lending mechanics are pool-based.
And finally, is there any Liquidium repos that the boot campers might be able to take a look at, potentially build on top of?
Currently, no. The code that's powering the peer-to-peer website is closed source, but we do plan on opening it up soon, I hope.
Okay, so keep an eye out for that, Aaron. But for now, stick to the ICP starter repos for now. Cool. I think that is all of our questions that we had in chat during the session. So I'm going to give everyone 1 or 2 more minutes to make sure that all their kind of questions and concerns are answered. Thank you very much, Bogdan, for coming in and giving this workshop. It was really great that you gave us a kind of quick recap at the very start. Someone did thank you for that. And then clearly you've did a little bit of workshop that people have been really interested in. So thank you very much for coming in and showing us Liquidium. Hopefully everyone in the audience has a better idea after the last 3 workshops of the kind of projects that can be built on top of ICP in terms of Bitcoin DeFi, the Bitcoin DeFi space. And I hope that having learned all that and having seen this kind of the inspiration, you're looking forward to potentially building a product of your own very soon. As for the rest of the bootcamp, we have 3 more sessions. Next week, we're focusing largely on vet keys, and then we have another demo session with some teams that are using vet keys or might potentially integrate vet keys into their projects in the near future. So this is very new technology. So kind of probably the first time you're going to be able to learn about it kind of in the space, which is really cool. And then in our final bonus session of the bootcamp, which is actually week 5, even though we were supposed to only have 4 weeks of workshops, we've got an extra special one because Caffeine AI, which is built on ICP, is launching very soon publicly, and you're going to get a workshop on how you can use the project, the Caffeine AI project to build on-chain apps, which is really exciting and hopefully something that interests a lot of people, especially those who are newer to the space and like using vibe coding tools and that kind of thing. So hopefully you're all looking forward to finishing out the bootcamp strong. Thank you everyone who attended live. Thank you to those who've watched the recording and are keeping up with us async. I will see you all. Actually, I will not be seeing you next week. My colleague Blake is going to be joining you guys for workshops because I will be in Singapore. But if anyone else is traveling and sees me around, then come and say hi. But otherwise, I will be back in week 5 for the final workshop, and I'll see you all then. Other than that, everyone, have a great rest of your week. And yes, Aaron, yeah, I am going to Token 2049. Have a great rest of your week, everyone, and I'll see you all very soon.
Thank you, everybody.